Hi there, it's Jeanette. Thanks for joining me. I have a Easter card to share with you that features the new products from Whimsy for March 2018. I used this very sweet bunny image. It's called Easter Bunny Hopping, illustrated by Lee Holland, as well as the new Shaker Maker die set to create this frame that goes around the image. So I did stamp the image out on Neenah cardstock using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and for a change I'm going to be coloring it up using Prismacolor pencils. So I have listed all the pencils in groups as I use them. I'm starting off with the sort of mid-toned gray here and just adding in all the shadows where I want the shadows to be. Then I will go in with a lighter pencil and I will add a little bit more and sort of blend it out a little bit, working on those shadowed areas. And what's fun about the pencils is that you can do like a large sort of area of coloring. It doesn't really matter, nothing is drying out at this point like Copic markers would or watercolor pencils. I'm adding some shading on the belly and on the muzzle as well. And then I'm taking a blending stump that I have used some OMS, some GAMSOL, to blend everything out. So I like to start in the areas where there is the least amount of colored pencil, gradually working into where it is a little bit darker, and then blending it outwards. And I'm going to continue like this until I have the entire bunny blended out, so the rest of his body, and then on his tummy and on his muzzle, making sure there's no harsh lines. At this point I just want some shading present, and I want it to be really nicely blended out. So for the next step, I've gone to grab my pencil sharpener and I'm taking all the same gray pencils and I'm sharpening them up to a really fine point. And then I am working inwards, so from the outer edge of the bunny, and then flicking inwards, I'm drawing tiny little hairs, so tiny little lines flicking from the edge of the bunny inwards. And I'm going to gradually darken it up by using darker and darker pencils. If at any point I feel like the pencil lines have sort of intruded a little bit too much into the center part of his face, you're going to see that I'm going to take my blending stump and just blend them away a little bit, because although I want to have some texture, I don't want it right in the middle of his face. I want that to stay sort of highlighted. So I'm just gradually working up in intensity by using darker and darker pencil crayons. And then I'm moving in with my lighter color and then blending again so that it's still really pretty and you don't see any harsh lines in the center of his face. I'm going to do the same thing with a lighter pencil on his tummy and on his muzzle. And you can sort of see how that all sort of looks out or works out. So now I'm working on the ears. I'm using a couple of pencils to add a little bit of pink to the ears and to the cheeks and the nose as well. Blending those out with the blending stump. Just want something really soft. I added a little bit of that lighter pink to the tummy as well. And I just kept working until I had enough color and it was nicely blended out. I'm going to work on the basket next. And I liked to take the darker color and sort of outline all the sort of little rows and little bits of the basket and then blend them with the blending stump. That gives me a really good base. And then I can just keep adding to it to add some more definition. You can see I'm using my sharpener again. I'm getting a finer point on that pencil so I can get right into all the tiny little grooves. And then I will blend it out again. I am using a different blending stump, so I have a whole bunch of different stumps and I usually keep them sort of for one color. So I have one for green, one for blue, one for brown. And if at any point the stump gets a little bit too dull, I do have a type of almost like a nail file that I will file the stump down to a finer tip. Now I'm just working on the eggs, and I just used a whole bunch of different colors. I've listed them here. A lot of times I didn't even blend out. Sometimes I did. Sometimes I just left the pure color on the eggs. And I'm just coloring them different random colors just to add a little bit of a pop of color there for the eggs. You're going to see later on when I'm finishing the card, I'm going to mimic those colors with some enamel dots, and that's really going to bring everything together. I'm going to work on the grass now, and I'm just drawing some horizontal lines with a colored pencil, and then working back and forth in a horizontal motion. I'm blending it out, and I'm adding different greens. I have 3 different greens there, just adding different textures everywhere. And I'm not trying to color the whole area, and I don't want it to be perfect. I just want to sort of give the illusion of grass being there. I'm going to darken up his little eyes with a Copic marker, a multi-liner, and I added some white dots with this. It's sort of like a Sharpie. I'll link it below. It's a new type of like poster paint type of thing. I'm going to add some blue around the edges now. I'm concentrating the darker blue pencil just along the edges of the cardstock. I'm adding a little bit more of it to the right hand side, which I apologize is off screen. But again, I'm working in horizontal lines and blending in those same horizontal motions so that the sky, it has sort of the illusion of movement. It's very diffuse and blurry, not perfect at all, but that's exactly what I wanted for this card. So I'm just going to work back and forth with the different colors until I'm really happy with how it looks. I added a little bit more green there to the grass. Then when I was looking at it, I thought I needed a little bit more of definition for the bunny in some of the shadowed areas. So I'm going in with the darker gray pencil and just penciling in some darker lines, and this is just going to make the bunny have a little bit more definition, make him stand out a little bit more. I'm going to cut a frame now using the Shaker Maker die set from Whimsy. This is the larger frame that comes in the set, and I'm just using some Neenah cardstock to cut it out. When I was originally planning this card, I actually planned on doing something completely different. So that is why I did sort of cut that bunny out in quite a small sort of piece of cardstock. Like I cut it down to size and then realized I wanted to do something different. It's still big enough to fit underneath that frame, but I'm going to have to be pretty careful to make sure that you can't see any gaps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put adhesive on the back, align the frame up on the top, and that way I'm going to know exactly where to place the image on my card base. Then I'm going to take some foam tape, it's foam tape, and I'm going to put 2 layers on. This is not the thickest foam adhesive, but I like the width of it, but it's not as thick as the Scotch adhesive, so I'm putting 2 layers on. Then I'm going to peel back the paper and center it over the image. It gives you a really nice frame that's sort of raised up from the image. And then I'm going to add some enamel dots just in the same colors that I used for the eggs. I'm just going to scatter them here and there on the card, and my card is going to be done. I think I'm just going to add one more and then my card is done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has inspired you to create your own Hoppy Easter card. Thanks for joining me. A full list of supplies and links can be found below this video on YouTube or on my blog.